We will remove federal barriers to internal trade by July 1st to help unleash the full potential of Canada. We will work with provinces, territories, and Indigenous groups to identify projects that are in the national interest, projects that will connect Canada, deepen our ties with the world, and grow our economy for generations. We'll make the Canadian government a catalyst for these projects, not an impediment.
Now, we have to be clear. We have to continue to be clear with Canadians that this won't always be easy. What's happening, as I said earlier, in the global economy, partly in jest, but this is serious now. What's happening in the global economy is not a transition. It's a rupture. It is a major change in a fast period of time. The U.S. is fundamentally transforming all of its trading relationships, not just with Canada. The effect is profound. It's displacing workers. It's disrupting supply chains.
President Trump's tariffs continue crushing Canadian agricultural exports worth up to $22 billion annually. Sources inside both governments confirm that Washington has reached out to Ottawa requesting emergency agricultural cooperation, specifically on wheat and grain supplies. But here's where this story takes a stunning turn. Prime Minister Mark Carney's response isn't what anyone expected. Instead of jumping at the opportunity to restore trade with America's largest trading partner, Carney just announced Canada is doubling down on its pivot to China.
Breaking. A sudden development in North American trade is unfolding right now, and it is already raising serious questions about food supply, diplomacy, and economic stability. Canada has signaled a firm refusal in ongoing wheat trade discussions, following urgent outreach from the United States. The situation escalated quickly, and Canada's response is now being described as decisive enough to disrupt U.S. supply chains almost immediately. According to officials familiar with the matter, the United States approached Canada seeking a renewed wheat agreement amid growing pressure on domestic food processors and exporters. Wheat inventories in parts of the United States have tightened due to weather disruptions, logistics challenges, and shifting global demand. Canada, one of the world's largest wheat exporters, has long been a key supplier helping balance these pressures. This time, however, Canada did not move toward compromise. The response delivered by Canada's Prime Minister was brief, firm, and unmistakable. While the exact wording has not been formally released in full detail, its impact was immediate. Markets reacted within minutes. Logistics firms began reassessing delivery schedules, and agricultural traders started pricing in delays. Wheat is not just another commodity. It is a foundation of the food system. It affects bread, pasta, animal feed, and countless processed foods. Any disruption, even temporary, can ripple quickly through supply chains. Analysts warn that when wheat flows slow down, the effects can be felt far beyond farms and ports, reaching grocery shelves and export terminals. The background to this moment is complex. Canada and the United States have one of the most integrated agricultural trade relationships in the world. Wheat moves across the border routinely, often processed in one country and packaged or exported from the other. This integration has historically kept prices stable and supplies reliable. A breakdown, even a partial one, introduces uncertainty into a system built on predictability. Officials in the United States had hoped that recent outreach would ease immediate shortages and calm markets. Instead, Canada's refusal has frozen key decisions. Grain elevators are holding shipments, rail operators are waiting for guidance, and food manufacturers are reassessing sourcing options. This could mean short-term slowdowns in production and higher input costs. Canada's position appears rooted in domestic priorities. Poor harvest conditions in certain regions, rising global demand, and the need to protect internal food security have all played a role. Canadian officials have emphasized the importance of ensuring stable supply at home before committing to large export volumes abroad. From this perspective, saying no is framed as a precaution rather than a provocation. The United States now faces limited options. Alternative suppliers exist, but shifting supply chains is neither quick nor cheap. Different wheat varieties require adjustments in milling and processing. Shipping routes must be renegotiated. Quality standards vary. Analysts warn that replacing Canadian wheat on short notice is far more difficult than it appears on paper. The timing adds to the tension. Global grain markets are already strained by climate variability, geopolitical uncertainty, and transportation bottlenecks. Any additional shock increases volatility. Futures prices have already shown signs of upward movement as traders react to uncertainty rather than confirmed shortages. Supply chain experts caution that the real risk lies not in a single refusal but in precedent. If Canada holds firm and the situation drags on, other suppliers may adjust their strategies as well. This could mean tighter global markets and reduced flexibility for importers. In Washington, the mood is described as urgent. Food processors, exporters, and farm groups are pressing for clarity. While diplomatic channels remain open, there is recognition that leverage is limited. Canada controls its export decisions, and trade agreements allow room for national discretion in times of domestic pressure. Consumers may not feel the impact immediately, but analysts warn that delays tend to surface quietly. First come higher costs for manufacturers, then price adjustments, and finally reduced availability of certain products. Wheat-based goods are especially sensitive because margins are thin and volumes are large. Transportation networks are another concern. Rail and port systems operate on tight schedules. When shipments are paused or redirected, congestion builds quickly. This could mean knock-on delays affecting other commodities, even those unrelated to wheat. The broader implication is about trust and coordination. The Canada-United States agricultural relationship has long relied on informal understanding as much as formal agreements. A firm refusal signals that national priorities are now taking precedence over historical habits of accommodation. Analysts warn that this shift could extend beyond wheat into other sectors if pressures persist. There is also a political dimension. Food security has become a sensitive issue globally. Governments are under pressure to ensure affordability and availability at home. Export restrictions, even partial ones, are becoming more common. Canada's decision fits into this global pattern rather than standing alone. From a strategic perspective, the United States may need to reconsider how it manages agricultural resilience. Greater diversification, increased domestic storage, and alternative trade partnerships are all being discussed. However, these measures take time, and time is what supply chains often lack. Canada, meanwhile, faces its own balancing act. Maintaining strong trade relationships while prioritizing domestic needs is not easy. Prolonged tension risks damaging a relationship that benefits both sides. Canadian exporters also rely heavily on U.S. infrastructure and markets. Analysts warn that if communication breaks down, misunderstandings could escalate. Even when decisions are driven by practical concerns, perception matters. A refusal can be interpreted as leverage or pressure, regardless of intent. For now, the situation remains fluid. Negotiations may resume. Conditions may change. Harvest forecasts could improve or worsen. What is clear is that the brief response from Canada has had outsized impact, freezing decisions and forcing rapid reassessment across U.S. supply chains. As markets wait for the next signal, businesses are learning once again how fragile modern food systems can be. Integration brings efficiency, but it also creates shared vulnerability. And the question for viewers tonight is this: in a world of growing uncertainty and competing priorities, how can neighboring countries protect their own food security without undermining the trust that keeps shared supply chains working? The ripple effects of Canada's refusal continue to spread as the focus shifts from the initial shock to the deeper structural impact on food systems and trade confidence. What began as a single decision is now forcing companies, regulators, and logistics planners in the United States to confront vulnerabilities that have been building quietly for years. One of the immediate challenges is inventory management. Many U.S. food processors operate on just-in-time delivery models. Warehouses are designed to move grain quickly rather than store large reserves. When Canadian wheat does not arrive as expected, there is little buffer. Analysts warn that this could mean production lines slowing or stopping, not because demand has fallen, but because inputs are missing at the wrong moment. Milling operations are particularly exposed. Canadian wheat is valued for specific qualities such as protein content and consistency. Substituting with wheat from other countries is not a simple swap. Recipes, blending ratios, and quality controls are calibrated carefully. Changes can lead to waste, delays, or products that fail to meet contract specifications. This could mean financial losses even before consumer prices change. Farmers in the United States are also watching closely. While higher wheat prices might seem beneficial at first glance, volatility creates risk. Farmers plan seasons months or years ahead. Sudden price spikes can distort planting decisions, input purchases, and insurance calculations. Analysts warn that unstable markets often hurt producers in the long run, even when prices rise briefly. Transportation systems are under strain as well. Rail operators had allocated capacity assuming cross-border grain flows would continue. When those flows pause, schedules must be rewritten. Idle rail cars in one region and shortages in another create inefficiencies that cost money. This could mean higher shipping costs across the board, not only for grain but for other goods sharing the same networks. Ports along the Great Lakes and the West Coast are adjusting plans. Export terminals depend on predictable volumes to remain efficient. If Canadian wheat is withheld, U.S. exporters may struggle to fulfill overseas contracts. Missing delivery windows can damage reputations in global markets where reliability matters as much as price. International buyers are paying attention. Many countries rely on North American wheat for food security. When supply appears uncertain, they may look elsewhere or build larger reserves. This could mean long-term shifts in trade patterns that are difficult to reverse, even if the current dispute is resolved. Canada's decision is also being interpreted through a global lens. Around the world, governments are increasingly cautious about exporting essential food products during uncertain times. Climate variability, extreme weather, and geopolitical tension have made food security a political priority. Analysts warn that this trend toward protection could reshape global agriculture. The United States faces questions about resilience. For decades, efficiency and integration were the guiding principles of trade policy. Borders became lines on maps rather than barriers. This moment highlights the downside of that model when conditions change. Greater efficiency often comes at the cost of redundancy. This could mean policymakers now rethink storage, diversification, and domestic capacity. There is also pressure on diplomacy. While formal trade agreements remain in place, much of agricultural cooperation relies on trust and informal coordination. A firm refusal tests those relationships. Even if Canada's decision is driven by domestic necessity, perception matters. Businesses react not only to rules but to signals about future reliability. Energy costs add another layer of complexity. Wheat production, transport, and processing are energy-intensive. If supply disruptions push prices up, energy costs magnify the effect. This could mean higher inflation in food products, even if wheat itself represents only part of the final price. Retailers are preparing quietly. Large grocery chains often hedge risks months ahead, but prolonged uncertainty forces them to consider alternative sourcing or price adjustments. Smaller retailers have fewer options and may feel pressure sooner. Analysts warn that price changes often appear unevenly, affecting some regions or products before others. Consumers may initially notice little difference. Shelves remain stocked and prices move slowly. However, food inflation rarely arrives all at once. It creeps upward through packaging changes, smaller portions, or quiet price increases. This could mean households feel the impact gradually rather than through a sudden shock. The situation also raises questions about regional cooperation in North America. Agriculture has long been a symbol of shared prosperity between Canada and the United States. A breakdown in one area invites scrutiny of others. Analysts warn that once confidence is shaken, even unrelated sectors may face higher scrutiny and tighter terms. Canada's own exporters face uncertainty. While prioritizing domestic supply may be necessary, prolonged restrictions can strain relationships with buyers and partners. Canadian producers rely on access to international markets to maintain scale and profitability. Balancing domestic needs with export commitments is a delicate task. Policy discussions in the United States are now turning toward contingency planning. Ideas such as strategic grain reserves, expanded domestic storage, and diversified import agreements are being revisited. These measures take time and investment, and they may raise costs in the short term. Analysts warn that resilience often costs more than efficiency. The broader lesson is about interdependence. Integrated supply chains deliver low prices and reliability when conditions are stable. When conditions shift, the same integration spreads disruption quickly. This could mean that future trade policies place more value on flexibility and redundancy. Communication will be critical in the days ahead. Clear messaging from both countries can reduce speculation and panic. Markets respond as much to uncertainty as to facts. Even a temporary framework or timeline could calm some of the reaction. For now, uncertainty remains. Grain traders wait, logistics managers revise plans, and policymakers weigh options. The brief refusal from Canada has become a focal point for broader concerns about food security and economic coordination. This moment serves as a reminder that essential goods like wheat carry weight far beyond their price. They touch daily life, political stability, and international trust. Decisions made quietly can have loud consequences.